want to tell you all a story about a little boy. This little boy grows up in a nice east side suburb of Cleveland, and he likes all the stuff that little boys tend to like. Riding his bike, chasing fireflies, playing baseball, eating candy. Normal childhood. This little boy happens to have two parents who are both civil rights lawyers. And as he grows up, he sees them doing all these cases that seem so important. Cases that, to his little boy eyes, seem like they are changing the world. So even though his parents never once encourage him or pressure him to follow in their footsteps, naturally, all he ever wants to do is to be a lawyer. And not only that, to be an important lawyer. So when he grows up, he goes to law school, works really hard the first semester, and when grades come out, he gets straight A's. And that ends up being both a blessing and a curse. Because from that moment on, all he feels is pressure to keep getting straight A's so that he can be an important lawyer. He ties his entire identity and sense of self-worth to his grades and his career success. And he keeps working really hard, gets straight A's the second semester, same thing second year, 4 semesters down, 2 to go. But like a pitcher in the middle of a perfect game, all he feels is the tension and the pressure mounting more and more the closer he gets to that 9th inning. He gets there, gets through 3rd year with straight A's, and even gets a federal appellate clerkship. But now he's got to go out into the real world as a practicing lawyer and be perfect so that he can live up to these expectations he's imposed upon himself. What he doesn't realize is that the weight of these expectations is slowly crushing him. And he has a successful career, gets to do work that changes lives for the better, gets to do work that is meaningful to him. And still any little imperfection, any little setback feels like the end of his career and tears a chunk out of his self-esteem. Now, all the while, life outside the law is happening. He gets married, becomes a dad, and then the dam bursts. Because both of his parents, the reason why he became a lawyer in the first place, have rapidly declining health right at the same time. And since he's an only child, he feels like he's got to handle everything all alone. And the buildup of all these things, but especially the unrelenting pressure that he's put upon himself over years, brings to the surface what in retrospect had been there all along, years before he went to law school: generalized anxiety disorder. Not the kind of nerves you get before trial. Perpetual, chronic anxiety that he feels from his sternum all the way up to his Adam's apple as an electric tingling that will not go away for weeks, for months. And even though he's not alone, because he feels alone and crushed by the weight of his own career expectations, it brings to the surface something else that had been there all along: major depressive disorder. Not the most severe case in the world, but the kind that if you saw, you would recognize. He doesn't recognize these things as they're building up over the years. And even when he does, it takes him far too long to deal with them the right way. And he does eventually, but not before causing himself and the people who love him a lot of pain for a long time. Now, things do improve. When it comes to mental health, though, we know that progress is not linear. There are ups and downs, setbacks, more very painful periods. And slowly, he starts to learn a healthier approach toward his career and his sense of self-worth. A better balance between the drive to excel and do meaningful work, while also leaving space to be a happy person. And he's still learning all that, still very much a work in progress, still has down periods that take their toll on him and the people around him. And sometimes it is still hard. But here we are, 23 years after that first semester of law school, and I'm guessing that by now most of you have put two and two together and figured out who the little boy is. You know, our profession puts a lot of pressure on us in a lot of different ways, and we know what they are. And so we sacrifice time with our families and time for ourselves and our mental health. And the problem reaches across the entire profession. 61% of lawyers report anxiety at some point in their career. 45% report depression. These are big numbers. And I'm here to tell you they're low. You'll notice I use the word report. That's a very different word than experience. But there is one number that we simply cannot afford to ignore. In a survey last year, when asked whether lawyers knew anyone in the legal profession who had committed suicide in the past 2 years, from 2021 to 2023, 1 in 7 said yes. 1 out of every 7 lawyers knew somebody who had committed suicide in the profession. And if I had been given that survey, my answer would have been yes. I know 2 people connected to my profession, my practice, who took their own lives in the past 15 months. One of them was a 30-year-old member of this bar association who had her whole career in front of her. We can no longer act as though the well-being of our colleagues is none of our business, because it is. We can no longer tell ourselves that OLAP can handle all that stuff, because they can't. If change is going to come, real change, it's going to come from us or not at all. Now, let's be clear about something. Mental health exists on a continuum, right? Not everything's a diagnosable condition. Not everything requires therapy and counseling and treatment. Some things are temporary or passing or relatively minor. Many things we can handle on our own, but not everything. And yet, as lawyers, so many of us don't seek support when we do need it. A lot of reasons for that. Stigma is the obvious one. The fear that if anybody knew I'm not feeling very well, that my career will be ruined. Denial is another reason. I don't need help, or I'm just not ready to deal with all that. There's practical reasons too. Child care issues, finding time in our already overburdened schedules, or just not knowing where to start. And that's especially a problem for someone in the throes of depression, anxiety, or another mental health challenge, because when you're in the middle of it, it can be hard to do so much as read an email, let alone figure out where and how to get help. Whatever the reason we might be hesitant to seek support when we need it, going forward, CMBA is going to lower the barriers that stand in the way of lawyers getting help and taking care of themselves. And to do that, the very first thing that we have to do is not just destigmatize mental health, we need to normalize mental health issues because they are normal. You heard the statistics about how common these issues are. You didn't need statistics to know it. The most effective way to reduce stigma is by hearing from someone like you who knows what it's like because they've been there before. Here I am. Throughout the year, you're going to hear from other colleagues in the bar, from very new lawyers to very experienced lawyers, leaders in our community, who will share with you their own stories so that you can see the living proof that if you need support, it will not hurt your career to get it. And more importantly, believe it or not, that you can be both a good lawyer and a happy person. We're going to do more than just talk about mental health this year. We're going to make it as easy as possible to find whatever kind of support lawyers think they might need. That support looks different to different people. So we're going to provide easy access to the wide range of different types of support that are out there. Things like telehealth, educational information, including how to spot and approach and talk to folks in your lives who you think might need help, and even peer support. Starting today, we're launching a new initiative called CMBA Bar Circles, so lawyers can connect with other colleagues who are living with or working through or who have worked through similar life circumstances, but to do so in an informal setting, a small, social, and safe setting. Now, you could join a bar circle to talk about things like anxiety and depression, grief, the strain of being a working parent, how to cope as a family member of someone with a mental health issue, and a bunch of other topics. The point of all this is to recognize that nobody needs to struggle alone, because there are so many out there who do understand and who might themselves be looking for support from someone like you. If you look at the back of your program on page 19, there's a QR code. You could scan it, learn more about bar circles, and maybe sign up for one or suggest one if something jumps out to you. Now, these are all really important steps, but we've also got to address the root problem of our profession, which is that over the past generations, we have come to accept that suffering is an inevitable part of being a lawyer. And in some cases, we've even worn it as a badge of honor, lionizing this gladiator mentality. But that just pushes us away from each other. It just breeds isolation. And when someone's struggling with their mental wellness, there are a few things more dangerous than a sense of isolation, feeling that you're alone. If we want to make this profession healthier for ourselves, our friends and colleagues, and our families, we have to take up the collective responsibility to shift towards a culture where self-care is a priority and not a luxury, toward a culture that is so obvious if you just take a second and look around you. We are all part of the same shared community. And if you ask any mental health professional, they'll tell you that what improves mental health in the workplace is a sense of belonging. That's true for lawyers, and that's the mentality that we all need to strive for together. Now, if you count yourself among the dwindling number of cynics, those who think that all this talk about mental health is just another sign that the profession's gone soft, I'm going to tell you one thing. Lawyers are dying. Now, I'm not saying that we should stop being zealous advocates, or we should stop working hard, or even billing hours. That's always going to be at the heart of what we do. What I'm saying is that we don't have to suffer in silence. We don't have to suffer alone. We don't have to glorify suffering. This won't be easy and it won't be fast, but one conversation at a time, we're going to make this profession so much healthier than it has become. And the way we're going to do it is together. And with that, I'm going to need my gavel assistant to bring me my gavel so that I can call the 17th annual meeting to a close. Please enjoy the family picnic, and let's all celebrate this chance for us to be together. Thank you.